Just to briefly introduce myself, my name is Kai Feeder, and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the Chief of Staff at the New Jersey State Office of Innovation. We're going to talk a little bit, I think spend the next half hour or so, right, Suchir, on talking about BASICNEEDS.NJ.GOV. Before we dive in, I want to give a big thanks to Secretary Bridges, who I know just left, and the entire team at OSHE. It's been an incredible opportunity to partner with them on this project. And a big shout out from my colleague, Crystal Peñalosa, product lead with the Office of Innovation, who's been instrumental in designing and developing a number of different tools over the years that have really put tools in the hands of New Jerseyans to connect them with better programs, services, and outcomes. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So before we jump into a little bit on the project itself, I want to take a moment to briefly raise a concept and approach with everyone here today, and that is human-centered problem solving. It's a core principle that drives the work that we do here at the Office of Innovation, and that is that we need to put the user, whether it's the resident, the mother, the business owner, the college student, at the center of our problem-solving process. We believe that to truly solve a problem for someone, you need to be able to empathize with them, to understand their challenges from their perspective. And to do that, you need to involve them in the problem-solving process. We can't simply solve problems for people, we need to solve problems with people. And that means that to build solutions, be it a website, a policy, a program, we can't just build it for those that we're trying to serve, we need to build it with those we're trying to serve. This is one of the core principles that's driving has always driven the Office of Innovation's work, but in particular is driving what we call the Resident Experience Initiative. It's a multi-year, multi-million-dollar effort to modernize and improve how New Jersey is delivering programs, services, and benefits to New Jersey, or to New Jerseyans. And BASICNEEDS.NJ.GOV is part of that initiative. And with this site, we've taken in partnership with OSHE just the first step to improve the digital experience for students that are looking to, that need to connect with essential supports. There is much, much, much more work to do on this front. And as we'll hear, we're going to continue to listen and engage to iteratively improve this site to ensure that it's making the maximum impact possible for those that it's intended to serve. And that's just one of the reasons why everyone in this room is so essential to this work. Your perspectives and those of the students that you serve are 100% necessary and integral to designing and delivering the tools and services that our students need to succeed. Your voices, your perspectives, and those of your students. And with that, I'll pass it over to Suchir to share some more background on this work and eventually dive in to see what we've built here.
So in fall 2021, OSHE administered a survey of students. We received around 15,000 responses from students across all sectors of higher ed, assessing how they were transitioning back to in-person learning, as well as how they were navigating their mental and physical challenges on campus. And so the results were not surprising. I'm sure many of you have seen the same, that the basic needs insecurities were exacerbated by the pandemic for students. So really we're trying to take a multi-pronged approach to address basic needs, and that kind of culminates into our basic needs website. This year we launched our telemental health partnership with UWill. I know most of your campuses are involved in that partnership, providing free telehealth services to students, and that includes connecting them with providers, counseling, and crisis emergency line, as well as meditation, mindfulness activities. And we have around 6,400 students that are currently registered on the platform, and almost 1,800 or 18,000 students that have booked sessions entirely through the platform. So it's very exciting, and obviously, as the semester rounds out with finals approaching, we probably will see increased numbers, but really happy that these students are getting the supports that they need through this service. We also provided $16 million in grant funding to institutions to help them establish community provider partnerships, and also provide professional development opportunities for faculty and staff with a focus on building multicultural competency. So those are the two kind of pronged approaches that we've taken for mental health. And of course, we're in our third year of our hunger-free campus grants, which are now extended to public mission independent institutions as well. So we're really excited to see that program growing as well. And then we have our basic needs website and playbook. And this culminated from a grant that we had from the Lumina Foundation. So we worked with the Hope Center to really create these resources and compile resources that would eventually turn into a central directory website, as well as a playbook for how to get students to access these resources. And this was informed by a convening with institution reps. Some of you may have been in that original November 2021 convening as well. And we also had student focus groups. So really we tried to get that student input, the institution input on why students may not be actually connecting to resources and what we can do to actually get them connected to the ones that they need and increase student uptake on some of these public benefits. So in the process of launching the Basic Needs website, we had a beta launch a little over a year ago. And we connected with over 900 total individuals to really communicate the site and make it clear that this is a resource that's available, but it's also a resource that's currently under development, and that their institution feedback and student feedback was really critical to making sure we can make real-time edits to the site itself. We engaged with more than 25 institutional partners. We conducted 7 ethnographic interviews with students, and Crystal can speak more to that experience. And we also had a usability feedback form that received over 500 responses. And those responses are still coming in. That feedback form is still on the site, but I'll turn it over to Crystal to talk more about how this feedback kind of informed the user experience, the changes that we made to the site as it exists right now.
Great, thank you, Shatir. So yeah, basically, as this process is human-centered design that Kai had mentioned, I was leading those ethnographic interviews. I think the numbers are important. I think the process is also really important to highlight as well. Really trying to find and talk to individuals more about their journey, right? About how they interact and find basic needs just within their experience, and allowing them to sort of lead the conversation, of course, with like some boundaries about what basic needs are, how people are looking for basic needs, and really kind of having that sort of focus around, their experience, really. And they're sort of the experts in the space. I'm just here as a facilitator to listen, not really giving them, like any sort of particular cues, but again, just really interested in how people are sort of finding this information on their own, what they're noticing on their campuses, and a lot of individuals, too, are sort of thinking about how this could be relative to maybe their family's experience or maybe their, brothers' experiences. So those ethnographic interviews that we're sort of talking about are more of that sort of understanding of that journey, and it's really kind of this aspect where we're sort of handing them, I think, the tools available to make sure that the website sort of speaks to that experience that they're talking about, and also just in general to how government services can help them better, how colleges can help them better, and be able to pass that along to folks like Suchir, folks at the Office of Innovation, right, to kind of bubble up and have that more of an impact on how those experiences are talking about, as they're talking about their experiences. So it was just a great opportunity really to just talk to people in that sort of context, and having those that sort of trust building eventually, and ideally it's those initial conversations are sort of building that relationship, but I think having the additional sort of feedback loops that Suchir was talking about through the feedback forms on the website, and also just the ability to be able to check in with them again and say, hey, here's the advice that you gave us, here's the feedback that you gave us on this website, here's what we did with that, here's what we ran with it, and here's sort of the impact that you've had on the way that we're sort of talking about basic needs. So I just really wanted to emphasize that approach. I think there's just like a lot to sort of unpack when it comes to human-centered design, but ultimately at the end of the day, we're really talking about making sure that individuals are having that sort of feeling of empowerment, right? That they do have a say in how people are, understanding and listening to them. I think that's the important piece at the beginning. And then what you're sort of doing, how we're sort of holding ourselves accountable, right, to that information and creating those feedback loops. So it was a great opportunity. Thanks.
I think it's important to note that we've really tried to make all these aspects of the site really intentional. As Dr. Goldrick-Robb said, students don't want to navigate an institution website to go find a specific resource. It's easier to just Google it and put the campus name and then find what you need. So keeping those things in mind is really what drove these changes to the site. So we're going to go and do a live demo of the website and walk you through what it looks like, some of the resources that are available, and kind of how to navigate the site itself. All right, so this is the site homepage, and we'll actually start at the bottom and work our way up. So these are the categories that we identified as services by type. So everything is organized within these 9 categories. And again, we try to be intentional about not using too much jargon and acronyms, and making sure all of this is in language that students can understand and access easily. And if you scroll up, there's a section that actually tracks how many students access particular articles. So within each of these categories, we have a landing page and then specific articles that link to that basic needs category. So that could be getting housing for the short term versus long term, or rental assistance. So those different articles will show up and in the top recommended searches, so students can kind of connect with the things that other students are searching for the most. And then again, we have a search bar at the top as well. And we're trying to be intentional about the language that we use when we prompt, when we have those prompts that come up when you click on the search bar. But again, trying to make sure that students connect with the resources that they need to by putting in the fewest amount of words, so it's easy for them to navigate. And if we click on, let's say, get food this week, it'll take them to a drop down of the article itself. And this is one of the shorter ones. But as you can see, we've kind of categorized it by statewide resources and then by county, so that students can see what resources meet their needs, and then location as well. And again, this is a work in progress, and we've gotten feedback on the way it looks and making sure that the visual experience is also conducive to getting resources quickly. But if we want to move down to the categories themselves, and if we click on like housing support, we've broken this down by get housing this week, get housing long-term, get help as a renter. And some of the feedback that we got is really converting the language that we use in the site to active language, making sure we're naming the beneficiaries that could actually utilize the resource itself, making sure it is an elementary reading level so that we're not using, again, jargon, complicated language, getting right to the point, and not having a, entire paragraph before the resources are actually available. But for example, if you click on get housing long-term, and again, if you scroll down, or actually, sorry, get housing short-term, this is one of our shorter ones, but we've tried to break it down by category and counties so that it's as accessible as possible for students. And if we head back to the main page, there's a bar at the top that actually allows any user to submit feedback on the site. So we're not in beta anymore, this is our official launch, but the feedback form will still be there. It'll still be an opportunity for institutions, for students, for any users really, to provide feedback on the site, and then we can continue to make real-time edits to the content and the language. And if you want to click on the feedback form link, and we'll share this all out with you after the event. But again, is it actually connecting you to the resources that you want? Would you recommend it to a friend or a relative? And then any additional comments or feedback. So that's an overview of the site itself. And again, I really encourage all of you to check it out. I think the slide has a QR code if you want to pull it up on your phone right now.
So, call to action. So getting back to the analytics piece for a second, I'll be very brief here. The way that these sites are operated and the way that we think about running them on a day-to-day basis is that we look at data every day to see what's changing, what's shifting. This is a tactic and an approach that we came across during the the pandemic with COVID-19.NJ.GOV. Just a very brief little anecdote here. The site was built and launched in 5 days. It has been, after its launch, it was updated more than 150,000 times. And that's because we were looking at data of what people were searching for, what was the need, which was constantly evolving, what were people responding to. And that same approach is going to be and can be applied here. What we need, and to make the site even more powerful and more impactful, are people on it. We need that information. We need the search data. We need what people are clicking on to understand where are their gaps, where is there information that we might not have on the site that we should, et cetera. So to that end, I think there's 2 big CTAs for calls to action. 1, utilizing the social media toolkit outreach, and 2, continue providing feedback on the site. The more people that use this, the more people that, like, and we love a good pat on the back, but to be quite honest, it's this is what didn't work, or this is how you could improve it. That's really the more valuable piece of intel for us to figure out how we can continually iterate and make this more impactful for the students it's intended to serve.